The year is 1420. The armies of England and of France are in a bloody battle. England invades and conquers the north of France and plunges the country into the darkest period of its history. Only one thing can save France: a miracle. A miracle indeed. For in Lorraine, a small township in France, there lived a young girl of 15 by the name of Joan. Joan was a devout and pious Catholic, and for many months now she had been experiencing angelic apparitions and hearing voices from God telling her that she would one day be destined to save France from the English and crown the new King of France. As events began to unfold, Joan soon found herself standing in front of the French king himself. Your Majesty, I have been sent here today by the King of Heaven himself to defeat the English and to drive them back across the ocean and to crown you, my lord, the new King of France. I beseech your Majesty, give me an army. Take me to the English, and there you will see the sign that God sent me to make. The whole country was in an uproar. News of this young girl who claimed that she had been sent by God spread like wildfire. Everyone, from the highest lord to the lowliest peasant, began uttering her name. Joan, 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 Joan our Savior, Joan our Deliverer, Joan the one who would free us from the English. For indeed, there was a spark of hope in the French people's lives. Many years ago, a prophecy was given to them, claiming that a young girl of 15 from Lorraine would one day save France. Could she be it? Could she be the one that prophecy spoke about? Prophecy or not, Joan certainly lived up to her reputation. Within a matter of weeks, she found herself skilled in the arts of swordsmanship. She was able to mount a stallion, and that's not to mention the numerous wealth that the king had given to her. Luxurious apartments, many horses, fine silk dresses to be worn. Of course, Joan had no time to wear them, for she was busy fighting the English on the battlefield. As the weeks went by one, Joan and her army began taking down the English and driving them back to their island across the sea. Soon, the tide of the English found itself receding back across the ocean. The English began to wonder and worry. They questioned their authority in the situation. For if God, they said, was on Joan's side, if God really is on the side of the French, then we, the English, are doomed to fail by divine decree. Letting fear and doubt take the better of them, the English pulled out their armies and fled across the sea back to their island. Of course, this was a time to celebrate for the French. Rejoice, rejoice, they cried. The English are defeated and they have fled back to their puny island. And now France is once again free to live its life in peace and prosperity. Praise the King of Heaven. Praise Joan of Arc, our Savior and our Deliverer. I wish I could conclude the story here. However, this is not the end. In fact, for Joan, this was but the beginning of her sorrows. Believing that she still had a divine obligation to fulfill, Joan launched several attacks upon several territories in France. Soon the French king and his court came to hear of Joan's misconduct and misdeeds with the army that they had given to her, and they soon found her to be a rather tiresome stone around their necks. They had to dispose of her. But how, the French king thought? For to kill her would be absolute treason, and to banish her from the country would be like betraying her. No. There must be another way, he thought. With his new crown upon his head, the French king devised a more subtle plan to dispose of Joan. He took away most of the men that he had given to her army, reducing them to but a handful of soldiers. He said to himself, well, if God is with her, then she can be victorious under any circumstance. And now that her army is so much smaller, then her faith will have to be bigger. Cunning, very cunning plan. and it certainly played out to the king's favor. For when Joan launched another attack on an English territory, I'm afraid to say that her faith in God had been misplaced that day. Her army was obliterated, and Joan herself was taken captive into English hands and thrown under lock and key. The French king, upon hearing of this rather unfortunate, unforeseeable circumstance, washed his hands of her and had nothing to do with her from then on. Joan was now in the hands of the English. The next few weeks was a trying time for Joan. She soon came to learn that she would be put on trial on charges of witchcraft and heresy. She had been accused by the English of using magic and consorting with the devil himself to defeat the English armies. For certain, the English were perhaps too arrogant to admit that they had been defeated by a mere woman. No, they thought, this has to be the devil's work. And by order of our Holy Mother Church, there is only one punishment suitable for this crime: death by burning. As the days went by, after many days of interrogations and intense trials, her judges and her assessors came to the conclusion that she had committed many heretical deeds while being tried in this matter of faith. "Joan of Arc," they cried, "you are a child of superstition, a wanderer from the faith, an invoker of demons, an idolater, and a heretic, and for that you must burn." Joan knew that her days on this earth was numbered. On the morning of May 30th in the year 1430, that was the last day Joan of Arc ever saw the sunrise. She was dragged in manacles and in chains to the town square, where her stake was awaiting her. Numerous were gathered to witness the execution of this witch. "Burn the witch! Burn her!" they cried. "Send her back to the devil!" Joan was fastened to a wooden pole with metal chains. The crowd fell silent. The first spark of flame was lit among the kindling. That flame soon grew and grew until it became a raging fire. That fire surrounded Joan and it began to burn away her skin. She struggled while being tied, but she could not move. She screamed in agony as the flames burned away her skin. And as the flames grew ever bigger and the smoke rose ever higher, it burnt her eyes and it caused her to choke amidst all the flames. Mustering one final breath, she cried out to her God in heaven, "Lord, deliver me from this death! Deliver me!" And with one final breath, Joan gave up her ghost and took her leave of this world. On May 30th, in the year 1430, Joan of Arc was burnt at the stake on charges of witchcraft and heresy. She was just 19 when they burnt her. 19. 500 years later, she was canonized a saint by the Holy Roman Catholic Church. And today she is Saint Joan of Arc, the patron saint for martyrs and those ridiculed for their piety. If you travel to cathedrals in France nowadays, you will see statues of her, clad in armor, mounted upon a standard and eyes lifted toward the heavens. But the question remains, does it not? Who was she? Who was this girl? For religious men of her time deemed her to be a witch and a sorceress. Yet those who believed in her saw her as a fierce warrior. Or perhaps history was right. Perhaps, after all, she was just a woman. Joan of Arc, witch, warrior, a woman.